Today is May 20th, 2022. This is episode 195 of Maelstrom Radio. Maelstrom Radio. With your hosts, Gladys and Shitter. And welcome everybody to Maelstrom Radio. My name is Peter. With me as always is my good friend and co-host, Quinton. Hi.
Oh, hi.
It is Friday.
It's Friday, I think. Yes.
Thank you, Jeebus. We had an adult. Here at Casa Splatus we had an adult week. adult week. But we'll get into that. Also with us, Small.
Yes, hello. It is I, Small.
Small. Scott Patat.
You
No,
just
it's
immediately responded to that.
Yeah, no, it's Emmy.
Yes. Hey, everybody. Good to be here.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been a bit. It's good to be back on Maelstrom Radio. And oh my gosh, you guys are so close to like episode 200.
Uh-huh.
I know, it's weird.
6 years of podcast.
That's
Oh
6
my
years.
gosh.
Yeah.
Has it been 6 years? Wow.
Close. Yeah. Just about.
Yeah, it is 6 years.
It's 6 years.
Dang.
We've done it.
Well, that's it. We peaked.
Yeah, hurry up. Well, bye, everybody.
See ya. This has been episode 195 of Maelstrom Radio.
Really, man, they really phoned it in these last.
Hey, we got the fun vibes today.
Maelstrom Radio is fun vibes. That's right.
2022.
Yeah.
Fun vibes only.
Only fun vibes. That's what Maelstrom Radio is for 2022. Only fun vibes. So let's get what happened to this week with all of us. So
I can start here.
I
was
go
sick
ahead.
all week. Done.
All right, bum.
Aw.
Done. Did it.
Well, are
Perfect.
you feeling better is the real question.
I am feeling better. I'm here, so that's always a good sign. But yes, I'm
Okay,
feeling a
I'm
lot
glad.
better now.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you.
I finished Kirby this week.
What? Oh, the second time.
The second time, yeah. I had to finish
Yeah.
the post game levels for the post game story. Man, that is a game.
That is a game. Susan's calling that
Is
in
it a
chat.
good game? Because I've had like
It's
a
a
bunch
good
of
game.
friends being like, "Are you getting the new Kirby game? Are you getting the new Kirby game?" And to be fair, I am a really big Kirby fan, but for whatever reason, like I just, it seems like a really cool game. I just haven't gotten to getting it yet.
It's good.
So if it's good,
It
I
looks
should
really
try
cool.
it out.
Oh, it's really
It's-
good.
It
The
looks
story
like
is
that.
messed
It looks like N64 Kirby, right? Or is that a different game? Is that
I
a
would
different Kirby game I'm thinking of?
I would say it's in terms of Kirby games, it's probably the closest representation to it is Kirby 64. But it is its own thing in terms of like how it plays. And they did a great job. Like it's very like linear, and they figured out how to do a lot of cool fun stuff, and like it still felt like a Kirby game, but added a lot of cool features like, oh, you could upgrade your weapons and stuff like that. It's like they added a nice like progression things throughout the, so it didn't feel like the same like, oh, I just Kirby-in the whole way through, just give me a power, I do the power. Like it's got a nice story. The story's not deep, but the story does get like takes a hard left. So
I mean,
What I
to
saw,
be
like-
fair, like it never Kirby games never really have like a super duper deep story.
Oh boy.
This one was a little bit more.
Well, this one they were like, "Hey, what if we did that? Like, what if we gave Kirby a story?" And they're like, "All right."
Kirby's
So-
like angsty past.
Yeah, sorta. Sorta. It's sort of like, what if Yokotaro
Kirby ate a truck. There we go.
yeah. What if Yokotaro also guest wrote on this episode of Kirby?
Oh my gosh.
It looked like a lot of the early levels were like more of your classic Kirby with like your swords and weapon and your like fireball, like your traditional
it
things.
progressed.
And then kind of like when you get to the mid game, the weapons start upgrading and turning weird. And by the end of the game, it's just they're all over the place.
It's great. It's perfect. I love it.
It is great.
And
And yeah, you get to eat trucks.
Yeah, I'm also getting a new dishwasher, hopefully on Monday. And we might need a new roof here at Casa Splata, so that's.
Oh no.
Yeah. We're getting quotes. If the cost of the repairs is at least our deductible on our insurance, it's probably better for us to go through our insurance and see if we just get a whole new roof. So, otherwise, it's probably gonna be about like $600 for a repair, maybe less, depending on if people are gonna battle for, actually pay who's gonna be the cheapest. So, Emmy, what did you do this week?
Oh man. Okay. Well, I'm trying to think because this kind of comes as a bit of a surprise. The big thing for me, of course, is play rehearsal in FF14. There's been a newer performance group that's popped up. That's kind of an offshoot from one of the performing groups that I've helped out with in the past before. And so they're putting on a production of Much Ado About Nothing, and the group is called the Firebird Theater. And so it's really cool because a lot of the other groups that I've worked with have been, at least the theater groups, have been on Crystal. But this one is actually based on Ether in FF14. Yep. And so as a result, I've had to Fantasia Scoot from, if you're watching on Twitch, the cute little Lala you see to a female Highlander.
Oh,
So
that's a big change.
Yes, so I am still small in real life, but scooting game is definitely not small anymore. At least until this play wraps up production and, does its run, and then I'll be back to male Olafel for sure. I miss it. I miss it a lot.
I can't go without Super Scoot.
So I do not. So oh yes. But I'm gonna put this in news because I think this is also news about Show 200.
Okay.
All right.
It's all right.
So Susan made a survey to collect Final Fantasy 14 themed data for a game she's making for episode 200. The link is in our Discord.
Peter and I don't know anything that's on it. Neither of us have clicked the link.
Nope.
She has not told us anything.
Yeah, we're keeping it that way.
Please don't tell us at all.
Yeah, don't say anything.
But go fill out the survey.
Yes, the link is in our Discord. It's on our Twitter. It's in our show notes. Please don't tell us. So we just don't be that guy. So
the last I heard, we had over 50 responses already on it.
That
was like
it's way up now. It's more.
It's way up now. Oh,
it's more.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's
so it'll be really
100.
great because this is a it's close to 100 now. So it'll be great because it's a Family Feud style. So she can say like we surveyed 100 people and the top responses are on the board.
On the board, yeah. So you
Family
can be
Feud.
Yeah, Family
Feud.
FF edition.
No.
All right.
I couldn't even tell what that was supposed to be.
Neither could I. I was assuming that it's going to be with Family Feud, but I could not pick it up.
Yeah.
Listen, that's the copyright-friendly version of the theme song. Nobody can sue you if it doesn't sound good.
kind of accurate.
Speaking of accurate, Final Fantasy XI's 20th anniversary is on May 16th. So post anniversary. Even Arby's.
I'm angry.
Even Arby's did a shout out. Why? Are you angry because that was a good segue, or?
I'm not angry because that was a good segue, because that was a bad segue. I'm angry because it was a better segue than what I was going to use.
Yeah. It was a good segue. I thought it was good.
So the House of Meats even did a shout out to Final Fantasy XI. So they did a Chocobo shout out. So
that's Arby's for everyone who has not been in our weird Discord channels.
Yeah, Arby's is wet meat shack. That's what I call it.
Moist meat.
Moist meat. No, all their sandwiches are wet. I don't understand it. I just don't understand why everything you get there is just wet. Final Fantasy XIV housing claim deadline is May 26th. Don't forget to check. The next housing lottery will resume on Thursday, May 26th, 2022 at 8 a.m. So that means I will go and try again.
That's 8 a.m. Pacific time.
Pacific time.
Hey, speaking of, wasn't there an announcement posted on the Lodestone somewhere about like, hey, if you claimed, a refund because of this whole housing lottery fiasco the first round, like you can give it back to an NPC at some point, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
So my question for you guys is, on a scale of 100% to 100%, what percentage of people do you think are going to keep the money?
Oh, 100%. Like
I don't think it'll be 100%, because there are people like Chili who would 100% give it back.
Yeah, I was gonna say there are people like Chili. It's sort of.
There are people who will operate on the honor system, but I think like a lot of people would just keep it, especially if you're bidding on like a large house or something. It's like
But also, we know that part of the housing is that it's to force Gil out of the game, right? So that there's not, like a surplus of Gil. I still think the Gil, it's that way. One, it doesn't get moved around, and two, but I don't know. It's like a shopping carts. Like it's a shopping cart test. Like who's gonna be the good guy and put the shopping cart back, and who's not.
You should give a special title if you give your Gil that's just called the Honest.
No,
that would be cute. That would be cute.
It would be. People would be angry that they couldn't get it, but yeah, it would be a good incentive.
That is a great incentive. Like, and then if you wanted to get the title, but you just have to like donate money to something, like just give Gil.
You have to drop 50 million Gil in a hole.
Just throw it in there.
And it never comes back. Yeah.
But also, you get the extra title of the charitable.
Now, see, that should be part of like the Doma rebuilding or something like that.
I agree. I didn't get anything.
Oh, you know what we do? This actually is a feature that comes in like the next expansion or like the next kind of patch, where we're rebuilding the void. You see, and you throw your money into the void and it never comes back.
Yeah. I called that World of Warcraft for 16 years.
Mine was EverQuest. But anyways, I mean, that would be viable. I mean, I think that would be really good, especially if they gave us void housing.
Yes.
You just look out the window, you see Cerberus.
Like, oh.
Every now and then, Cloud of Darkness passes by.
Oh,
there are so many places where I would love to see housing, and I know they never will do it.
Mm-hmm.
The
only one that I'm like 100% absolutely would want to move in a heartbeat is Rectica.
Rectica would be cool.
I just like forest housing.
I'd like Ilmeg housing.
That'd be nice too.
I know people that want like housing, but like shaped like the bunny area, where it's like the mechanical like robot trees and stuff like that, like where nothing is real, everything is simulated.
Yes,
you have to specify
love that.
The Loperate area.
Yeah, the Loperate area.
Yeah, and you have Loperates going around. No, I would move for the Loperates. I totally would. I totally would. I've been told I'm a Loperate in real life too. So Lalafell and Loperate.
Loperate housing, but it's only open to Lalafell.
Smalling way.
Ooh, okay.
It would be a lot easier to get a house there because people would have to change to a Lalafell, and if they Fantasia'd out of it, no more house.
Or Loppert housing, but you only get to see the Lopperts if you're a Lalafell. Everybody else has a house in the trees.
Yeah. Get wrecked.
Everyone gets a house that's like, shoot, what's that 90 dungeon?
The Dead Ends?
No, the other one. The Lopperette one.
The first area.
Smileton.
Yes, Smileton. That's it.
Yeah, Smileton.
That's it.
You get a house built in that like area if you're a tall race, and then you get one of the like little Lopperette pods if you're a Lalafell.
I got a 3D printed fabricated IKEA house.
This is the Lulperits.
Yeah, Lulperits.
The Lulperits.
Hedge. And no, I feel like Susan somewhere is just like giggling because I said hedge. If you're an IKEA person, you get that joke. That's for you, specifically for people that shop only at IKEA. So, sweetest meatballs and all. Destiny 2's Bungie says it won't be muzzled by Sony when it comes to standing up for what's right, and great. That's fantastic. Thank you, Bungie.
Yeah, especially on the tail of some of the other. I think it was Insomnia that tried to post stuff, and Sony's like, Bungie's always been very vocal.
They really have.
And, they would probably get in trouble from Sony before they muzzle themselves.
Yeah. I mean, yes, Sony bought them, but other companies have purchased them before, and guess what? Guess what they did? They bought themselves out. So, well, good old. Again, I don't know. I'm not a fan of Sony's CEO. Like, I don't like the guy. Like, it's just not a stand-up person in my eyes. Like, he's very much a bottom dollar. Like, doesn't care. Like, to me, he's just like another Bobby Kotick. So it's just like, ugh, gross. Guild Wars 2's. Oh my god, why does that not sound right? Guild Wars 2's Living World Season 1 Sky Pirates episode drops Anchor next week, May 24th. So, as you know, oh my god, that was so many
So if you're not familiar, Guild Wars 2 has a series of content they call the Living World that is done between their different expansions, and it's kind of their patch cycle content. And this is released in a time-limited format where the Living World Season 1 was originally dropped back in 2013, and it hasn't been available for quite a long time. So what they're doing now is they're going back to that original Season 1 content. I can't remember what season they're in now. I want to say it's like 5 or 6.
That's right.
It actually might be higher because we're quite a ways away from that. But the Living World Season 1 was originally started to be re-released earlier this year. I want to say back in February or March. And then it's episodic. So every time that some new content comes out, every few months, they're going to be releasing more of that old content. And that content's actually going to be available permanently now. So that's really good for people that weren't playing Guild Wars 2 back in 2012 or whatever this was, 2011 maybe. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it because I missed Season 1 and I kind of was trying to go through the story chronologically and I wasn't able to. So now I can go back and do that next time I play.
Yeah. So that's it for news. So, Emmy, what have you been doing? Where have you been?
Oh man, I mean, honestly, to be honest, if we're keeping up with the fun vibes here, it's been depression. Besides focusing on my mental health, though, most of what I've been doing has been, just playing Final Fantasy XIV for plays. I've just been helping out with a bunch of different performing groups in different respects. Kind of just jumping from group to group. It seems like whenever one group like wraps up a show, another group is like, hey, we want you to be, we want you to play Beatrice in Much to Do About Nothing. And then like a couple months later, it's like, oh, but we want you to be, so-and-so in some other show. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of acting with both Scoot and my Nanamo characters just on different servers lately. And I'd say that's been, I don't think I've had a gap in that for like at least a year now. I want to
Oh,
say.
wow.
Like it's like there's one show and then there's another show and then there's another show. Like it just doesn't stop. But I think it's fun. I think like the production process is a lot of fun.
You try to keep it to like one show at a time, or do your shows tend to overlap? Or
I do try to keep it one show at a time because especially as you get closer to the end of a show, like the rehearsals get pretty frequent, at least I've found, because you're doing like full runs every single day. So as a reference point, when you start a show, a lot of the time you're just going scene by scene. You're just trying to get like the timings of the lines right, so that you're using macros to perform these scenes, right? So the first step is, does the timing of the macro match with whoever else is in your scene? So you may start out with just a full day working on scene 1, and it's just going through and very, very slowly, like just adjusting macro timings. And so not everybody is present during those first rehearsals. But over time, you're working on more and more of the show until you have like full runs of an act. And then you have full runs of the whole show. And so it turns into every single rehearsal is at least one full show run. And so, yeah, it turns into, depending on the nature of the group, it may be anywhere from like 3 to 5 days a week. You're just in rehearsal doing show runs. Yeah.
that's
I
a
forget
lot.
what the question was. I've rambled on for too long. What was our original question here?
It was related.
Yeah, it's what you've been up to.
I kind of forgot to.
All the things, apparently.
All the things, yes.
With that, like I know you also do like some of the dance troupe stuff as well. Is that kind of in between shows, or do you do that in addition to the shows?
That's kind of in addition to the shows, and the reason is I don't really do a ton of performing with the dance groups. With the dance groups, it tends to be more production assistance. So, for example, if they want to use my house for something, then I may just take a couple of days and set up like a stage of some sort, or spend a couple weeks just working with production on that.
So a lot less time intensive.
It is a lot less time intensive because I'm not performing. I feel like if you're on the crew and if you're on the crew, really, you don't put in quite as much time as somebody who's in the cast. Unless, of course, you're like the director or the assistant director, which in that case, you're there every single day. Yeah, that's really, really time intensive, and kudos to all of the performing group directors. Yeah, so it's a lot less time intensive if you are just doing like stage work as opposed to being in the cast.
If when you get down to the point of like you're doing that practice of a full episode a day, like are all aspects coming together at that point? Like is it just everybody's running through lines and that's the show, or is it like lighting's happening and music is happening and scene changes are happening? Is that all happening?
Yeah, usually by that point, everything has come together. For the most part, you'll start seeing things like set changes and lighting and music coming into play when you're doing maybe like full act runs. So maybe like the first half of the play versus the second half of the play. That may be when people are starting to look at, okay, what does lighting need to do? What does sound need to do? And by that point, all of the macros have been fleshed out. All the emotes are in, all of the lines have been finalized and, looked over for typos and things like that. So, yeah, by the time that you are doing full runs, everything's pretty much been put together, and it's just running everything through for the muscle memory of it, I think I find. Of course, every run, even during rehearsals, you do see people make like little mistakes or something, and you have the opportunity to run back and try doing something else, or like try redoing something. But yeah, the show's pretty much done at that point.
Right on.
Yeah, and that's usually I want to say on average 2.5 months in. would be my guess.
So what's the time frame though? Like before, like from like start to like a show date, like how much time goes in between like starting it and then like the actual show going live?
There's actually a lot of planning that goes into the show before the cast even gets involved, before there are any auditions or casting calls. I'd say it usually takes, I don't know. I've had some groups take like a year to make productions from start to finish, from just like idea to it coming into play. But then, this one that I'm in, I think hasn't taken nearly as long to get started. Um
Hmm.
so yeah, 6 months to a year I think is about average, and it really depends on the length of the show, how many people are involved, does the script need to be adapted? Um yeah, but it does take a while for any group to even choose a show. And then from there it's just
The
finding the
hardest
right
part.
people. Yeah.
So you said it takes like 6 months or so. Is that 3 to 5 days for that whole 6 months, or more
Um
ramps up to that towards the end?
So I'd say it ramps up more toward that, toward the end of that process. So the 3 to 5 days that I'm talking about usually is for the, I'd say, 3 months or so that rehearsals take place for. Um, Before that, people I don't think need to be on as often. Your cast obviously isn't involved at that point. Crew really only gets involved toward the very end, I would say. Um, Ushers who are outside of a house just directing people do need a good amount of training. But you can train an usher maybe a week or two before the show gets started.
Mhm.
And then lights and sound takes more time to get down and get people into the swing of things. But again, they don't come in until a lot later. So most of that 6 months, I'd say, is just done by a lot of like the writing of the show and the like finding artistic, like who's going to do the costumes, and do we have the licensing for this play is a concern sometimes. um there's a good amount of administrative work that just takes up a lot of the beginning part of that 6 to 12 month period.
That's crazy.
It is berserk.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
reading in the chat here, Susan
Yeah.
saying, "Do I have time to play FF14 as a
Yeah.
game, or is my theater stuff the main thing that I log in for?" At this point, the theater stuff is the main thing that I log in for. I do have time to play FF14 as a game. I just choose to spend that time in other ways. Um, that
It's a lot.
said, yeah, that said, a lot of the groups do have like just for fun, like runs of FF14 content outside of the show. Even though people are working toward, for example, like getting costume pieces together,
Mhm.
even though people in the cast may be, um, all working toward that kind of goal, they do a lot of outside, like just playing together, playing at FF14, or they may have movie nights together. Like there's a lot of kind of team building and camaraderie that kind of comes through these theater groups in FF14.
Awesome.
I guess that makes that a lot better to some degree. Like, you're putting a lot of effort in with these people, and if you kind of have that time to relax and just hang out casually, I guess, makes it a little bit easier to work with them in some degree, I guess. But it doesn't, especially with being like everyone's remote, like Final Fantasy, it's not like you're going to a shared space and actually hanging out as you would in theater. Like, it gives you that, yeah, like you said, that camaraderie with each other that you might not otherwise get.
Broadway. It's Broadway.
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 No, actually, if you want Broadway, I think you're looking more in the direction of um, the dance groups. Although, to be honest, I don't know that there are too many dance productions right now that are kind of on like the musical theater,
Mm.
like that kind of genre. I do know at one point there was a group. Yeah, there is an opening out there. There was a group for a while that was called. Oh, what was it called? It wasn't Technical Step, and I think it still exists now, actually. It is a group that I help out with. The Burgundy Room. I'm mixing up all my groups. There are so many. There was a group called the Burgundy Room, and this group still exists today, but in its very earliest iteration, they put together a show that was based on La La Land. And it was a good mix of narration and songs, and it wasn't necessarily like a play, but it still told the story of the film. And
right on.
It would be really neat to see a group just take on that musical theater sort of space. I know Burgundy Room, has been eyeing that, but I don't know, it's just a space that there's a big opportunity to get into. And I know there are a lot of dance groups out there, and I know that there are a decent amount of theater groups out there. So it'd be cool to see that in between, see them both merge.
I wonder if that part of that is like you were saying earlier, like having to get the rights to all these different pieces, like the play itself, if that might play a part into why there's not any so much musical theater. A lot of them are still.
I think it could be. And I mean, the dance groups, I don't know that they're necessarily as concerned with copyright as the theater groups. I don't know if that's the nature of the groups or what the difference is. I figure if it gets big enough, eventually that will become a thing that people do have to watch out for. And I think it is good that the theater groups are proactively doing that and getting the rights to shows, or they're choosing things in the public domain, or, in the case of the Firebird Theater, they asked like another Shakespeare company, hey, we really want to use your adaptation because it's like a little bit shorter and sweeter. And so can we use it? And they said, oh, sure, of course. So it's nice that people are getting those sorts of, permission and the appropriate rights to be able to perform live, so that there are no problems for the foreseeable future.
So you're saying it's going to be a long time before I see Hamilton in Final Fantasy XIV.
Oh, I wish.
Disney would not let you do that one.
Yeah, like how does a bastard orphan? Not today.
Yeah, I imagine working with Disney, and this actually does bring up a thing that I think people have brought up before. Virtual theater just inhabits a weird space because you aren't really performing for people like necessarily physical butts in seats. It's all virtual butts in seats, right? So a lot of people, I don't think a lot of like corporations and stuff know what virtual theater actually is. It's still, small in presence compared to in-person theater. And I think that that's led to some groups encountering difficulties in the past, like just trying to get rights to stuff.
Trying to just explain what is it that you do again?
Yeah, what is it that you do? And also, like, these things don't have a budget. If you were to charge people real money to get into an FF14 show, that would be breaking the terms of service. Like, you're not allowed to do that. So it's like a community theater, but you aren't even allowed to like charge for tickets or anything like that. It's just, you're just doing it for the love of the theater, for the love of the production. So it is a tough place to be right now. It is a tough place to be.
Theater is a third-party tool, and we're shutting it down.
Okay, earlier when you mentioned Broadway, I know where Broadway is in Final Fantasy.
Where?
The moon.
Is that where it is?
Yeah, with the rest of the Leopards.
No, I thought it was on the first.
Broadway.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm with you. Picking up.
It took me a bit too. I like it.
It's cool.
Yeah. How's your dog?
Oh, dog has jumped onto my lap since we started the show.
We got good timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
I had mentioned before the show, there's a good chance that Ella's going to jump up onto my lap during this show. But I don't think anybody heard her jumping up.
No. The silent wind that is Ella.
Silent dog. I took off her collar so that she wouldn't make any noise. Yeah. Ella has been absolutely great. I don't know if I had gotten a dog by the time that I had gone on the show last, but this was kind of like one of my, I'm hoping that this will increase my mental health, but also like I really just have wanted a dog for a while. So yeah, she's just super sweet. Dogs are great. Cats are great. I'm not a cat person, but like just what pets can do is awesome, and they make great gaming buddies.
You said Ella jumped up on your lap. Well, Alfie decided to come and join me next to me on my desk, but I don't think he's happy with me. He's facing the other way. I posted a picture in pets.
Aww.
And cute things, but
I don't.
No talk me, I'm angry.
He's like,
but yeah, pets are great. Dogs are great.
Oh, yeah, Popo's got a DNA test coming in soon. Hopefully soon. We just got some updates today, but nothing about his breed, but all his medical information came back, and Popo's gonna apparently live forever.
That's great.
Yeah, apparently
immortal dog.
Yeah.
It's not that he's going to live forever, it's that Popo is ageless.
Yes,
Poe does not age. He's just permanent old man.
He's permanent potato, and it's great. So with everything now that you're on a group that's on Aether instead of Crystal, you've been on Gilgamesh, I'm assuming, a little more often, or at least on the Aether servers a little more often. Like a lot of us, I mean, at least Susan and I have felt like Gilgamesh has felt a little empty lately. Do you? I have a thought on it, but I want to see what you think it is. Like, or have you seen it? I mean, maybe you're just in your own theater bubble and you haven't noticed. But
I mean, so the theater world is still very much active, but I found that my FC is definitely a little less active than it used to be. And I also think that Gilgamesh kind of has gotten a little bit drowsy, shall we say.
Mhm.
It's been, I'm not really sure why, to be honest. It could be that we're in a content lull, but like we have a little patch and then things kind of get a burst of activity for a little bit and then they just kind of go back down. So it's like, is it that the format of the content's the same? Like, I really don't know what the root cause is. I'm curious to hear what you think.
So I think I mean, I could be wrong, but what I think is something that a lot of MMOs dare almost not do. In my experience with MMOs, is that you ended the story. Now, it's not permanent. They're starting a new story. But you ended the story that people have known for the last 10 years.
Right.
And that's a risk, right? Because there are people that truly fell in love with those characters, both the good and the bad. And while the good characters are still there, we still have the Scions and they're still rolling around, and they may be spread out, but they're still there. I think some of the bads that came about were very iconic, and
that's true.
And we know from Twitter that a lot of people loved those characters, and ending it
Yes.
also gave a clean cut, right? Like if you chose to say, "Hey, I got what I wanted out of the last 10 years of this. I'm good." Like I don't need to continue to. I know for them, like they might say that that's the end for the story for me. Like that's it. Like I don't need to.
I know
continue
a lot
to start
of people
over.
who are like, I know a ton of people who were like, I'm going to Fantasia, because this story made me feel like my character as they are is like done.
Yeah.
Like they need a break. I can see that as being a reason why people aren't going. And like sure we've had a bit of a patch to sort of set things up for the next chapter, but we really don't know what's going to happen at the beginning of this new arc. Like it seems like we know it's a transition patch, right? It's like any kind of loose ends are going to get wrapped up. And come patch, what are we now? Are we in 5.0, 6.0? I've forgotten the number. Come the next expansion, that's really going to be when
6,
come 6.55, 7.0, maybe we'll have some people get invested in this story. But these little patches in between the expansions tend to be a little bit sleepier. Tend to be, not always.
Yeah.
And so we'll have to see if the action really ramps up. Maybe that'll cause people to come back in between, but I think we're more likely to see people consider coming back at the beginning of the next expansion.
Yeah. Chili in chat says, I'm waiting for the drama in 6.2 when Dragoon gets reworked. Chili plays a different game than all of us. And Chili's game is not Final Fantasy 14. It's what will they do next to all the classes? So
I thought Chili just played Triple Triad.
Possibly. He's somewhere playing a child's card game. So yeah, I think you're also right. I think it could be a mixture of things. Like I know there's people that would play just the beginning of the expansion, break right before the launch of the next expansion, play through all the story content in one giant chunk, and then do the story content for the next expansion, be done, and that's it. Like that's how they play the game, and that's fine. Like Yoshi P truly set up the MMO that way, where it's like, hey, you can log in, grab everything you need, do the story. You could probably buy crafted gear and get by, fairly easy. There's the trust system. Like you don't really need to interact too much with others other than the trials. And even then,
the trials now you can do them with a trust, at least when you do it for the first time. And we also have to keep in mind, like Gilgamesh is still considered a raiding server. So there are going to be people who just go through and do their extremes and do their ultimates, and then they're like, okay, see ya.
Yeah.
I'll come back when we get, a new set of raids.
Susan's or go ahead.
I'd say I wouldn't be surprised if people log on to Gilgamesh Tuesday, Wednesday to do their weeklies and then only log in for their raids and such later.
Yeah, Susan's asking, is it more of the people not feeling the urge to group up to do the extra things like mount runs and maps? And I think it's a next ultimate is 6.3 if I remember. 6.1?
What?
I didn't think we're getting another ultimate.
Didn't they just release an ultimate?
Chili's a madman.
Like one ultimate per expansion.
Again, remember when I said
Savage would come out probably 6.3.
Remember when I said Chili's playing a different game than all of us?
Man, no, if they released an ultimate like every other patch though, I'm sure that would bring at least your hardcore raiders back. But man, that's a certain point you'd think they'd run out of ideas, especially knowing what they've done for the past ultimates. You need a Savage first.
They have 2 ultimates planned for this patch, like these like
really?
Why would they do
that? Seems weird. They have way too many other things going on right now.
Yeah, because the current one was
the current one was previous expansion. They didn't have one for Shadowbringers. So that makes sense, yeah.
Did they skip? Oh, they skipped. That's right. It got pushed back.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Well.
Anyways, we can cancel that so we can get Animal Crossing in Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, this is everybody.
That might bring people back.
Yeah.
I'm ready for Animal Crossing in Final Fantasy 14.
Me too.
I hope it lives up to the hype that people are building in their heads about what this is going to be. So
I hope it lives up to the hype, and if it is for a 1-for-1 of Animal Crossing, which I don't expect it to actually be,
but if it is, I do not expect that either.
If it is, I hope they give more villager dialogue than they did in the last Animal Crossing game.
Fully voice acted.
Yeah. I don't think that's happening.
It could be fully voice acted like Animal Crossing. Yeah, Island Sanctuary. I'm really hoping it goes well. I don't know if you've seen it. I mean, I've been playing Stardew Valley on Sunday mornings with people in stream, and it's been really, really chill and a lot of fun just to kind of have that like shared area where you can kind of just you can do your own thing, but just relax and like I don't know. It's a farming sim. We have one person that goes out and mines and defeats monsters, and I fish. And Tibiet runs around like a chicken with its head cut off.
Yeah,
has no idea what's going on.
He's a good lad.
And Sarah keeps the farm going with all the crops. Cass takes care of the mining and the monsters, and I sit and I fish.
Yeah, go team Woo.
But like being able to have that sort of like joint area where you can just relax and like it's just have fun is nice. I'm hoping that Island Sanctuary kind of brings that into Final Fantasy a little bit too.
I'm hoping so too. Now, have we had a lot of updates about Island Sanctuary besides like, hey, we're pushing it forward?
No.
Oh.
No.
We don't even really know what it is.
We still don't know what it is, but we just know it's coming out.
We know it's coming, and I'm excited for it. And I would like to know what it is.
Yeah, I am almost worried that the lack of information on it, that it might get pushed back to the next expansion. Like, that's my worry, that it's like, well
I think the lack of expansion is more because they usually wait until it's about a month prior to, like the live letter, about a month prior to when it's supposed to be released is when they actually drop the information on it.
Yeah.
I don't think they tend to give information before. And I could see them being a little hesitant too, because there's a lot of expectations around this. Like, if we're telling them that we want all of Animal Crossing as a mini game inside,
that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. So I'm sure that there might be things where they're thinking like, oh, maybe we can add this, maybe we can do this, and just trying to get like as many interesting things in there, but in like a way that's very solid and able to do it.
It ends up being like Lost Ark's Island Sanctuary.
I'd be sad on that because that's not. No.
What do you mean I ran out of energy? It's my house.
I do think that with this Island Sanctuary, because it is such a I don't know, it's a broad concept, at least in our minds right now. Hopefully it's something that Square Enix can then just like add on to over time, where it's not like, okay, we're just dropping it and then we're gonna work on it for a little bit and now it's done. It's something that they can just add on to as time goes on with each expansion.
And I hope it gets more attention than a lot of the things that they've added, like that. Like you look at the Golden Saucer, which was this big area, and they have had a few updates to it, but it's not like a constant addition of things, and housing where we get a little bits of updates here and there. But like effectively, this could be like another end game type content for people, like housing is. And if it's not constantly updated, that will be very sad.
I could almost see, I don't think at launch, but I could eventually say, I could see them saying like, hey, also to, I don't know, in a form of housing, like there is a small house, not like a house that you can get in the world, interact with people, but like a small, like you could decorate it. And
I can see, I think there should be instance housing.
I still love the idea of like large plot with a small house, and you pay Gil to trade like outdoor item space, outdoor furniture spots for like more inside housing, if that makes sense. So the plot size stays the same, but it's like a large yard, but just like a small house on it, and then you upgrade the house.
Okay.
Well, I think some of it would be like a lot of it is technical limits, right? Like they can't render all of those items. But if you had it in like, if Island Sanctuary is like an instanced area where like it's just your island sanctuary, they could increase that number significantly.
Sure can.
Because you're the only house there, right? You basically have your whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that would be cool if like Island Sanctuary acted as effectively your own private home, where you could have like start with a small house and eventually build your house bigger and bigger.
How do you
but
play with your
outside
friends
item
then?
limits are.
You can invite your
What do you
friends.
mean?
It's like Animal Crossing. You invite your friends over to your island.
Yeah. Like no different than visiting another ward, right? In game, they would be able to come over, visit. You could restrict people in and out.
I guess if they made it different from like the housing directory that you see at the Aetherites.
Right, yeah. So
where
it would
it's something
be like
the estate
whole...
teleportation menu or something.
Yeah, like it's
there.
It's a whole separate. It'd be similar content to housing, but a whole separate system. So it's not housing.
Yeah,
but it could take a very similar role.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, at least, like you wouldn't have that community aspect of everyone's houses being around, but you'd have that single aspect of like basically like your apartment, but bigger. Next question: where are they going to put all these island sanctuaries?
What island?
Well, presumably, if everyone gets their own island, then there's probably some place in the sea somewhere that has all these random islands.
Pocket dimension.
That's where we're going. That's why we haven't explored the southern seas, right? They were like, and we need to explore what's in the South Seas. That's where the islands are.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. There's just
it's gonna be like this massive like smattering of islands all around.
I own an island.
Look at northern Canada if you don't know what I'm talking about. That's basically gonna be it.
It's a smattering of islands.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, islands. Can't wait. I don't know if it's Animal Crossing. I might be slightly out on it because all I want to do in Animal Crossing is fish. So
let me fish on my island.
Yeah, Susan
you
says
can fish on the island.
Yeah, Susan says, and that restructuring of community seems to be a trend. Like they want less personal wards and more FC wards.
They want it, but the FCs want large and medium houses, and so all the FC wards are just like
dead,
kind of empty. At least for now. Like I'm curious if people are going to fill up the smaller plots over time, because like maybe the first lottery round, like everybody wants to try and get that large. Okay, now the larges are taken. Now let's go for whatever mediums are left. Okay, fine. I've lost like 4 lotteries in a row, and all that are left are smalls. But hey, it's a house.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's what's going to happen, but like at this point, all the personal wards are full.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see maybe too, like after a few months of having FC exclusivity, like maybe they'll start allowing personal buyers into those wards as well. Not in terms of like, well, yeah, I mean, maybe they'll let like personal buyers have the smaller houses if they're noticing that people aren't buying them, right? Like,
yeah,
they have a lot of things. Chili saw someone complaining they couldn't get their FC house because they kicked everyone before they claimed it. That's on them.
That's on them. Guess what they did? They learned. They learned that you can't.
Everybody.
You can't scam the system and get.
Yeah, they tried to get around the rules, and Square's like, no,
not today.
I'm
mad because I tried breaking the rules and I didn't get the rules broken, and I'm mad now. More. Yoshi P, fix it. Go into the forums, clickety clack. My name's Butthurt107, and I'm. So we just had somebody leave RFC for that very reason, right? They wanted their own tiny little FC house. And the thought, right, of like I know we've talked about it in a little like over the course of the last few weeks, I think, with all the discussions we had with like the various guests and MMOs and everything like that, is yes, we know MMOs are striking that balance between single player and multiplayer, right? But Quinton and I grew up in the age where MMO was like massively multiplayer online, and then whatever the last 3 words were.
Role-playing game.
Yeah, RPG or FPS, or depending on like what it was. So it was. I mean, do you feel Wait, all right, or you. I mean, how do you feel? I mean, yes, the world is MMO, but do people
So
want?
you mentioned that we grew up in the time when MMOs were massively in multiplayer, but you have to remember that back when we used to play, MMO servers probably were only like 500, 1,000 people because there weren't a lot of people playing MMOs at that time.
Yeah,
but it was
now
just
it's
a
even
very
more
tight-knit
massive.
community.
Now
it is very massive.
Yes.
What is it? MMORPG, massively massive multiplayer.
But you're right. You're right. It was much more tight knit. Like people knew, but
right.
So the I think a lot of the question is going to be how does a game strike that balance? And like, I think you and I have discussed plenty of times of the restructuring.
We do a whole episode on this one. This would actually be a really good episode.
It would be. Maybe we'll take like a little bit here, but actually make this its own thing too. Like we'll go light because we could probably really flesh this out and do its own thing. But
yes,
no, feel free.
Because you're an FC leader and you've organized like multiplayer in-game events and stuff like that. Like, do you find it difficult and like are less and less people showing up to these things, or do you just because of the depending on the event, like there's a theater group doing a thing on 8th, like that will draw people, right? Like people are curious, they may just show up for the event. Versus like, oh, hey, maps, we're doing some maps over here. And then people are like, meh, like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think it does depend on really a lot of things. So first off, it's the event itself. Is it something that occurs, for one weekend only? Or is it something like maps where you could do it any old day that you want to? A lot of people just don't want to miss out on things like theater shows because they're like, well, once this play is done, it's not really coming back. You can't get that same experience of sitting in a theater in game and watching everybody go through this live. The other thing that really influences whether people show up is the amount of advertising. If you are advertising on just one world, you may end up with a few people. But if you have somebody going around to advertise on every single world, it's just more people knowing about it. So that can influence how many people show up to an event. The other thing that I found with really everything, this is everything from role-playing events to maps to plays, is what is required of the attendee to be able to participate. If it's role playing, you're expected to participate in some way, shape, or form with your character. So are you in the mood to put that brain power to use and think creatively about how does my character interact with this group of people who I may know, I may not know. Is it a familiar setting? Is it in a theater event, a lot of people may come because it's like, I just have to sit and watch. All I'm doing is sitting and watching. In something like maps, not a ton of people may want to come because, again, it can happen any old day with any old group of people. And you have to have a map and you have to actively take part. A lot of people, some people are really in the mood for active participation, and others just find it a lot more, approachable to just come in, sit down, observe, and have fun with the performance. And I think the last thing that can influence whether somebody comes to an event is the community of people around it. So do they know the people who they're going to be interacting with? Is it a group of friends that they have a lot of fun with? Or is it a bunch of strangers? I think a lot of people just are more inclined to come if they have a good idea of, hey, I'm going to have a good time doing this. If it is an individual event, I don't think that matters quite as much, like if you're just observing as a spectator. But if it's an active participation event, people just want to have fun. So I think all of those things really influence like whether somebody comes to an event and how many people show up. it's really pretty complex the more I think about it.
Yeah, it
is.
Yeah, like Susan said in chat, it's like no one is that excited to do anything, even new things. Like people seem to rather want to do it solo in the party finder or on their own time. And Susan says, I feel like I'm doing a bad job as an FC lead and aren't able to engage anyone. But it seems like it's not the same as it used to be. I think part of it is that but I think that goes back to we just did 10 years worth of like this massive storyline and content, and we hit a hard like reset, right? Like we're resetting everything, and I think people are just not burnt out's not the word. I think people will come back, but I think they're taking a breather, right? Because Endwalker, even story wise, Endwalker was a lot. Like like even if you did it all in December, it was a lot. Like emotionally, it was a lot. I think people like may have said like, "Hey, I'm gonna come back and maybe peek out some of the content as it drops," but I may just need a breather. Like I just did 10 years of this content back to back to back to back. I'm done for a little bit. Like I need a break. 7.0, I might come back hard again, but I need like that little bit of gap in time just to recenter, regroup, and then I'll come back to that. I think that might be it. I think we just might be. Again, never seen this happen before. Like I've played enough MMOs where I've never truly seen anybody just hit the reset button other than like, oh, we're going free to play. like you know what I'm saying? Like
it was good closure, I think, for this chapter. And personally, because I've seen the same thing happen with my own FC, I don't know that we're necessarily doing a bad job as FC leaders if we aren't able to necessarily like actively engage. Like, come on, guys, let's go do the 24-man. Let's go do some maps. Let's have a costume contest. It's okay if you're not doing everything all the time. What I found is just really nice, though, is even if the FC isn't doing things in game, and even if they aren't logging in as much as they used to, it's been nice to engage other channels like Discord just to kind of reach out and say like, hey, we may not be playing as much as we did, but I still feel a bond between you guys, and so I want to foster that friendship, even if we aren't in FF14. And I think that's kind of what helps people just stay in. And if they do decide to leave, then that's fine. But I find that they return more often just because it's like, you guys are a good group of people. I don't think it really reflects on our abilities. I think it's just, what's going on in the game right now as a whole.
Yeah.
And I think to some degree too, what we're seeing, like, especially with groups that have been together or people that have been with the same group for a while, what you're looking for changes over time. When you're new to the game, you're really super excited. You want to do all the things. You want to learn how to do this. You want to learn how to do that. Maybe you're shy and you don't get involved with directly. You look for a group that will kind of help you go out and do things. They'll teach you things. They'll run stuff with you. Or they'll be active and ask for help and do all of this. But over time, like when you play for a game for 10 years, that ends up changing over time. Maybe you're not as active. Maybe you have other commitments. I mean, 10 years ago, 10 years ago, I was still in school. So I had to do the math on this one. 10 years ago, I was still in school. So like I had a lot more free time to do things aside from when I am now fully like employed full time. And like my priorities have changed since when I was in school. Like when I was in high school, longer than 10 years, like I could go and do all that raiding 3 days a week, 3 hours at a time, like stay up late, all of that stuff. But now I have no interest in that sort of thing. People do, but I'm just saying like the way that people play changes over time. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that we're seeing. Like speaking for RFC in particular, there hasn't really been a whole lot of new people that have joined. So most of the people that are there are people that have been here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're looking for is probably the people that are here still are probably looking for something that's very quiet, laid back. They might have some friends in the group that they're playing with, and that's all they're looking for. They're not looking to do all of these things where there's constantly events going, all these things. And if that's something you want, people are going to places where they can get that.
Yeah.
because I know for our FC we don't do that. Like we can go and try it, but unless you're constantly going out week after week and being like, I'm playing this event and this event and this event and this event, and always doing it no matter what the response is, like it's very hard to keep that up as well. And that's not where we are as an FC.
And we've done that in the past, and it's a lot of work. Like it is.
No, every event is a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work,
and that's not where we are as an FC. So if people are joining our FC looking for that, they're not going to find it, and they're going to go somewhere else where they might find that. And I think that's what you're seeing is a lot of people are going to smaller FCs because everyone has a slightly different definition of what they want. And you can't get what you want in a very large group. A large group just gives you the option of you can probably do anything at any time because there's always going to be someone around. But eventually, if you know what you want, or if you're in a group already and it's not what you want, you go somewhere else to find it. That's the same in life as it is in game.
And similarly, like it's not a reflection on you if your group doesn't have what somebody wants.
Yeah. RFC is just hit cocktail hour. That's where we're at. It's like laid back. It's there's some light mingling here and there. And it's an open bar. So, eventually.
And like cocktail hour for the past 2 years, most people haven't been showing up.
Yeah, most people don't show up to cocktail. I show up to cocktail hour. You're going to tell me free cocktails? I'm showing up. I'm going to be there. I don't you can tell me I can just sip on some whiskey and just hang out for a little bit. Great. I can leave at any point. Also good. I'm not going to because there's free cocktails. Also, now there's a pirate themed bar in our house. So I'm happy about that. Quinton and I could sit down and really go through let's dig into the past and look at the future. Like we could really dig it deep into this, and maybe I'm sure producer Susan's already written this down as a future episode. So
I think we can, because I think the premise of our MMOs becoming less massive, there's definitely something there, because MMOs are more massive than they ever have been. But the larger that a group becomes, the harder it is to connect in that group.
Yeah.
So everyone feels much more isolated the larger that group becomes.
A good example. I was going to say a good example might be Project Gorgon, where
honestly, yes,
where it's a very small MMO, and I happened upon a dear friend, so we didn't.
Yep. Who was super friendly and never went back and said hello.
I need to go visit him and see how he's doing and see if he ever became a pig. It's like I might become a pig later. I'm like, this is great. Like I need to know more about you.
I think a really good example of this would be like if you have, let's say, just a local coffee shop nearby. If you go out, you can go to the local coffee shop. You know that they're probably going to be a pretty good coffee. They might have some baked goods or something that's there. You probably know the baristas there if you're there relatively often. They're friendly. They say hi. You get to know them. And it's like that family atmosphere, right? Everyone kind of knows everyone. It's a very friendly place. You go there. But then you travel somewhere and you don't know what's around there. So you go to local big chain coffee store, and sure, it's the same location that you go to everywhere. Everyone goes to that one. Everyone knows what it is. Their products are pretty good. They're comparable, maybe a little bit expensive, but it's much less personal, right? You don't know the people working there as much. It's not like you walk in and they're like, oh yeah, you get this, this, and this with a special little thing here. Like, nope, they're just like, I want the tall, dark one with a little bit of milk. And it's a very different experience, even though they're fundamentally the same thing. They're both coffee shops. The small one feels a lot more connected, even though it's not as massive as the huge chain, which is very massive, but feels isolating.
Yeah, with the huge chain and huge MMOs, like it's just you have to find your own little nook in there. You aren't going to know everybody there, and I think that's why it does feel a lot more isolating in the experience.
And when people look for those small little groups, whether it's a theater group or a small FC or whatever, they're finding that niche, that nook where they feel like they belong.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that when you look at the entire massive group as a whole, like the whole group is not going to be one analogous piece. Like it's not going to be one homogenized piece. There we go. It's going to be a whole bunch of smaller little groups. Which
very accurate.
20 years ago, at the start of MMOs, would probably be about the same as what we would have today, but they felt a lot bigger because the world was much smaller.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. Like it's weird to think like how true that is based on knowing, and we've both experienced this for sure, is that when somebody did something crazy epic on the server, the whole server knew that person. Like everybody knew. Everybody knew.
For better or worse.
For better, yeah. Depending on what they did, you knew them. Right, maybe famous or infamous. Like, so.
It's kind of like that small town charm. Like everybody knows, and word travels fast.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Do you? Oh man, that's probably the biggest question of that. Maybe we really do need to do an episode because I have a great question for that.
I have news.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I didn't put this down because I forgot about this.
Maelstrom Radio breaking news.
This isn't breaking news.
Oh.
But this, I didn't put this in there, but I think this might have happened a couple weeks ago. Peter, are you aware of the Sleeper?
Wait. How do you want me to answer this? Wait a minute. How do you want me to answer this?
MMO, the Sleeper. Not a game MMO, but the Sleeper in regards to MMOs. So for those who are not
so I have an idea.
I'm definitely not familiar. So please.
Yeah. So for those who are not familiar, way back when, there's one of the first MMOs out there was Everquest, and Everquest was one of the precursors to most 3D MMOs. It predated WoW, its sequel EverQuest 2, etc. EverQuest was one of the first 3D graphical MMOs, and the developers put in a boss, quote, called the Sleeper. And the Sleeper is a giant prismatic dragon.
Yes,
that was basically designed to pretty much be unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
It is the Sleeper, ergo it was sleeping, so it was not active. And it was... basically, if it woke up, it would be an apocalyptic event on the server. This is back when MMOs had like server-wide events. It was huge when people actually went and did all of this stuff. So at the time, they added a way that you could awaken the Sleeper, and this is something that can only happen once on a server. The Sleeper was sleeping on every server, and if you woke up the Sleeper, it would cause an apocalyptic event to happen on that server. TLDR, bad things happened. Was not good for the server. But eventually, at some point, like people got powerful enough, and they did a series of quests and things to unlock the Sleeper, and then or to awaken the Sleeper, kick off that series of events. And once they did kill the Sleeper, a bunch of other things happened. But it was a very hard raid encounter, required a lot of things, and it can only be done once per server. And once you killed the Sleeper, it prevented other bosses from spawning, and it changed the whole server thing.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, this is a one-time per server event. So back when we had, I don't know, what was it, like 15, 20 servers for EverQuest, originally, it could be killed a total of 15, 20 times overall. So it was kind of like a status symbol for the teams that had done it. So, sidebar, there is a series of private servers for EverQuest, and at least one of them, Project 1999, Green, is approved by the company that runs the actual production servers as well. So this is a private server that people just play on. It's kind of like almost like a progression server in some cases, where it's kind of locked in time historically. It doesn't have all the latest stuff on it. But one guild decided that they were going to trigger the game and awaken the Sleeper on Project 1999. And This is a very so I'll start that this is a very small. It's a private server for a very old, a 23-year-old game at this point. A private server, so very small community relatively. They woke up
Had
this
nobody
catastrophic
done this
thing.
before, or
No, because it changes the game, right? It for the entire server, it will change the game, so you can't do certain things.
But nobody did it for like any server before. Is this like a very first time ever kind of thing, or
they had done it in the production servers? It was killed like decades ago for the first time. But this is so this basically locked in time historical private server. One single guild, and not even the entire guild, a small rogue faction in that guild decided they were going to screw with the rest of the server and woke up the sleeper and killed it. And needless to say, remember, so that, again, this is that small town thing, right? Everyone knows the guild that did it. Everyone knows there are multiple factions in that guild, and some people wanted to do it and some people didn't. And people know exactly who woke it up and did all of this thing. So basically, that entire people are upset very much, Susan.
The entire server hates that guild now. Like,
oh no,
that guild has basically been like
ostracized.
Banned. Like people, they're ostracized. People do not want to associate with them. People will leave that guild if they were part of it. People are happy if they left beforehand. The people involved are like they would be blocklisted from most things. Like they wouldn't want to do it. And because like all of the rewards from it was just limited to that small group of people that decided to take advantage of it and stopped certain other bosses that people wanted from ever appearing again. So one person summarized in this article, it was a once-in-a-lifetime event on a server that a group of selfish people decided to do without telling the rest of the server, running themselves the most hated guild on the server.
Wow.
So yeah, that's something that like we don't see as much anymore because you go kill a boss, like, all right, sure. But there's stuff like that where one small group of people affected the entire server.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was a big news a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I can read a quote.
Very different environment.
I can read a really quick quote here. Glad I left the guild a couple of months earlier. I would have been calling people worse than pixel poopers. So if that makes you feel anything, that people were actually happy they left the guild prior to the fact that happened. And people like, and here's the thing, it was a difficult fight. So like the guild that did it, it's impressive that they did it, but they also ruined the game for other people. So
it'd kind of be like if you walked into the game and you went and killed like, I don't know, Graha, and then that shut off the entire Crystal Tower series forever.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly
basically what they did.
Yeah. That's exactly what they did.
There goes Shadowbringers.
Yeah.
All of Shadowbringers.
Yeah.
It just never happens now.
It's never happened. Yeah. It's exactly what it is. So yeah, that happened. That's and Project 99 has a lot of players. It's a for what it is. Like it's got a healthy, I would say healthy,
it's a private server that has lasted for like 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
And has official backing from the company.
Yeah.
It's a good server. It was fun.
Yeah, you and I died to spiders.
I died to a lot more than spiders than that. We also died to orcs, and we died to skeletons, and we died to
everything wanted to kill us.
It's true.
So that's a very good example. I mean, we've said it before. Like, I think you and I have mentioned both playing Rift when like you did something cool or solving a puzzle in Rift and you got a piece of legendary loot and it like shouted it across all the servers. And if you had Twitter set up,
did it too.
EverQuest did it too. Early WoW did it as well. Like it was. I remember so in World of Warcraft, there in certain aspects, right, when the server was small and Onyxia first dropped, and the first I remember when the first raiding guild killed Onyxia because you got a quest item that you brought the head of Onyxia to the major city that your faction was in. And it did like the whole, like everything, like this big fanfare happened. It was like scripted. You heard music. Everybody got, if you were in town, everybody got shot with lightning and got like a 2-hour buff, like dragon buff that increased like your
That's not where I
damage.
thought that was going.
Yeah, no, but it was insane. Like you didn't know what was gonna happen, and like, but it was so cool because in the middle of town they like did like they hung up like the head of the dragon and stuff like that. Or like, oh, like it was like, but everyone was like, what's happening? Like, and all of a sudden you realize like, and it's like so and so like collected, like took down a Nixie. Like it's like this whole scripted NPC event happens, and like that stuff doesn't happen anymore. Like it's like beating Ultimate, and then like at the end, like, you know, like
the world first group gets announced to everybody in Lindsay,
yeah,
and they have a parade. Yeah,
yeah, exactly it. Yeah, exactly like that. Yep, exactly it. So, well, man.
That seems like it would have been so much fun if they did something like that, you know, nowadays.
They could.
Kind of.
They could. Do it.
They could. I do wonder about ego though. A lot of world first groups.
I
don't know. I don't know world first groups, but like a lot of people who clear ultimates. I bet you the world first groups are just fine, but yeah, with rating with high-end content, Susan mentioned, I feel like a lot of people would feel excluded, and I would agree to a certain extent. I would.
I think games like Rift, who were newer but not still old at this point now looking back on it, it's old now, but at the time it came out,
only 12 years.
It was celebrating. It did that for people even like completing a world puzzle, right? Like, so not somebody who was doing rating, but like solved a puzzle in the world before anyone else did, right? Happened upon it, solved the puzzle, and then shouted them out to the whole server. So I think if a team wanted to develop, you know, giving recognition to players for solving puzzles, crafting, and stuff like that, and doing world first things on that, they could.
They kind of do. They sort of do it with like titles and stuff now, like with the whole Firmament, you know.
Yeah, and
the Firmament quest. It's just a smaller scale, it seems like.
Yeah, the Firmament was a really good example of that. I wish they would do more of that. They could, and they should. I think they really should. They could expand on it. They could do a lot more with it. So I'm sure they will. We'll have to go fix something else up, and they'll do Firmament 2.0 or whatever it's going to be called. So.
One thing I really enjoyed with EverQuest 2 that I thought was cool was there was points of interest in the world. And if you went up and you went to that point of interest, and if it was in a specific time period, you could actually click on it and it would basically say, so-and-so was here. And that would persist for a couple days. So like it wouldn't be permanent. Like you wouldn't be the only one that could collect it and then no one else would have it. But it was there. So like if at the beginning, for example, you could click on it and then you kind of knew that someone had already been there and discovered it. Like you weren't the first person.
Remember when you could be Odin?
That point.
Yes, I remember when you could be Odin. You can't. I don't know. I never have been Odin, and it would have been really cool to see Scoot as Odin.
And they haven't done anything like that, really. Like that's a thing that they could do again. Like they could do something like that similar. And like I know somebody's like, oh, they do that in this raid. I'm like, yeah, but it's not the same.
I also liked that in EverQuest 2, they tracked who discovered everything.
Yeah.
So if you were the first person, like it wasn't necessarily in the game because they also had a web interface for all this stuff, but you could see who discovered any item. So to be the first person to ever have that item, which was a really cool thing for like crafters, for gatherers, and for raiders. Because you could say, I was the first one to get this really cool item from the boss, or I was the first one to ever craft this thing.
Should bring it on back. Just bring it on back.
Chili says, I didn't know that Dark Souls was the EverQuest of video games. That's accurate. No, Dark Souls is the Ultima of video games.
That's way more accurate. That's true, especially with all the unsolicited PvP that just happens upon you.
Okay.
It was like, I'm invading your world. I'm like, I didn't ask for this. I didn't want any of this. I just wanted to just beat the boss that's killed me 8 times. This guy's killing me too, and I don't like it. And then they fall off a cliff and you win, and you're like, yay. Or you back off a cliff and you're still dumb.
Not my fault.
Yeah. It happens. But hey, if if you ever want to watch somebody play EverQuest, I can shout out Panth on the Twitters. Panth is somebody who I do watch. He's good. So if you want to go watch somebody play EverQuest, go watch Panth. He likes like melodic fantasy metal and plays EverQuest a lot. So I can get you one. If he's live right now. Oh, even better. How about this? Maybe we raid.
Yeah, we can go raid.
We could raid Panth. They're playing the Evil Dead game, so that's what they're doing currently. But
before we do that,
we have the business, the business. But before the business, Emmy, tell people where they can find you.
Oh, okay. So you can find me on Twitter at Emily KOCHVA. So at Emily Koch VA. And if you would like, you can also check out a bunch of the performing groups that I have been helping with. So the first one actually doesn't have any social media or anything like that yet, but it is the Firebird Theater. And I'll go back to normal voice here. It is the Firebird Theater. They are currently doing or working on a production of Much Ado About Nothing. I imagine, I don't know that they have a performance date yet, but it'll probably be sometime this summer. But yeah, check them out. They are based on Adamantoise. You can also find the dance group that I mentioned, which is the Burgundy Room. Their house is over on Gilgamesh, but they do all sorts of touring performances over on Aether. And for the crystal performance groups that I've helped out with, both of them are on Diabolos, and that is the Stage Reborn and Stelazio Virtual Theater. Both of those, I believe, are still in planning for their next production, but keep an eye out in Final Fantasy XIV for both of those. And yeah, I do hope that you enjoy if you take a look at all of those, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming back again.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Hopefully next time won't be as long.
Long?
I mean, sorry, the next time that you're on won't be as long since the last time that you were here.
Got it.
It has been too long since you were here with us, so.
It has been. True. It's always great to be on.
Hey. Of course, we have gaming streams on twitch.tv/Maelstrom Radio, Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. If you missed it, Monday and Thursday, I finished Kirby. Kirby's over. There was no more Kirby. And I have to find something else to do because I finished the thing.
There was a twist.
There was a twist. I finished the thing. So.
If you need ideas, we have lots of them.
Oh well, yeah.
For you to solo stream.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I always got stuff. So, episode 196 is happening on Saturday, May 28th. Special guest Mioni.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Got Mioni. So Mioni is the leader of our stream team with the Team Whiskers. So.
And of course,
forward to that.
Yeah, when we reach 666 followers, I will be doing Peter Escapes Hell mega stream where I will attempt to complete a Hades run. and like in all caps, this will be a long stream or incredibly short stream. What if I just like get it in one go? Like that would be really like epic for me, but disappointing for everybody else.
You barely made it to the third boss last time you played, and how long has it been?
It's been a minute. But I'm the video game boy. The video game boy never backs down. So when we reach 777 followers, there will be a Kigurumi stream, and we will gladly wear them whenever we hit 777 followers, even if it's hot
That's
out.
So cute.
Yeah,
guys, we need to get them to 777.
Please share us everywhere. Tell everybody to follow us.
Poor Kigurumi's been sitting in my closet back there.
We still don't know what it is. His is a mystery. So
yeah, no one knows what it is.
No, they only know what mine is. So
we do. On that note as well, I mean, well, I guess for recording people, you already missed it, but for people who are here, Sunday stream is going to be a little bit different this week. I'm still recovering. There will be Sunday streams. However, the format might change a little bit. We might just do some more extended Stardew. So keep an eye out.
Also, well, as always, till sea swallows all. Keep listening.
Maelstrom Radio is brought to you by maelstromradio.com and Blackfire Media. Produced by Flatus, Shintier, and Susan Sprinkle. Join us live Fridays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/maelstromradio. Send email to show@maelstromradio.com, tweet us at maelstrom_radio, or join our Discord at maelstromradio.com/discord. Views and opinions expressed by our hosts and guests do not reflect the views and opinions of any companies discussed on today's show.